Today, we are going to talk about a book that can change your life. This book is Influence: The Psychology of Persuasion, written by Robert Cialdini. Dr. Cialdini is a psychologist who spent his entire life trying to understand why people say yes. For 3 years, he infiltrated various professions, where he worked with salesmen, fundraisers, and advertisers. During this research, he discovered 6 fundamental principles that influence people. These principles are so powerful that by understanding them, you can bring revolutionary changes to your personal and professional life. This book is not just about sales. Rather, it is a deep study of understanding human nature. Cialdini explains that there are certain automatic response systems in our brains that force us to make decisions without thinking. These systems are the result of thousands of years of evolution and were built for our safety. But in today's modern age, clever people take advantage of these principles to make us do what they want. In this summary, we will understand these 6 principles in detail and learn how you can protect yourself from them. The first principle is reciprocity, which is perhaps the most powerful influence technique. This principle states that when someone does something for us, we feel obligated to do something in return. This debt of favor is so strong that we often do something even for a person we do not like. Cialdini mentions an experiment in which a researcher gave free Coke to some people. Later, when the same researcher asked those people to buy raffle tickets, those who had received the Coke bought twice as many tickets. It was only a 50-cent Coke, but it completely changed people's behavior. In restaurants, when waiters give you free mints, your tip increases by 15 to 20%. Companies distribute free samples because they know that even a small gift can influence the purchasing decision. Religious organizations also use this technique when they give free flowers at the airport and then ask for donations. The most interesting thing is that this rule works even when we did not ask for the gift. Even if we do not like the person giving the gift, we still feel compelled to do something in return. The rule of reciprocity has been extremely essential for society because it encouraged people to help each other. In ancient times, when a hunter shared his food, it was understood that in the future, other people would also help him. This social contract became the basis of human civilization and has been considered important in every culture. But in the modern age, clever marketers exploit this human tendency. They prepare us for big purchases by giving small gifts. Free testing counters in supermarkets are part of this strategy. When you taste a product, you feel obligated to buy it, even if you did not like it much. When charity organizations send you free pens or stickers, they know you will increase the likelihood of donating. Even politicians use this technique when they influence voters by doing small favors. Cialdini explains that the only way to escape this trap is to recognize when someone is giving a genuine gift and when someone is using a sales technique. If something has been given to us as a sales trick, there is no harm in accepting it. But we do not need to do anything in return. Another interesting aspect of reciprocity is the rejection then retreat technique, also called door in the face. In this technique, a large demand is made first, which you refuse, then a smaller demand is made. Since the other person is reducing their demand, you feel that you should also compromise. This technique is extremely effective because it takes advantage of the rule of reciprocity. In one experiment, people were asked to work as counselors with juvenile delinquents for 2 years. When they refused, they were asked to take the children to the zoo for just 2 hours. 50% of the people agreed to this smaller demand, while only 17% of those who were asked for the small demand directly said yes. This technique is very common in negotiation and bargaining. Car dealers first quote a high price, then by giving a discount, you feel like you got a good deal. Children also instinctively use this technique when they first ask for a bike and then compromise on a skateboard. This strategy can also be seen in political negotiations, where one side first places large demands and then gradually retreats. To avoid this technique, we must recognize whether the initial demand was genuine or just a trick. The second powerful principle is commitment and consistency, which deeply influences our behavior. Once we have made a decision or taken a stand, we feel personal and interpersonal pressure to behave consistently with it. We want to show ourselves and others that we are true to our word. This tendency is so strong that we often behave irrationally to justify our previous decisions. Cialdini mentions a study in which people who bet on horse races felt much more likely that their horse would win after placing the bet. They had made a commitment by putting down money, and now they had to justify their decision. Companies use this principle when they get you to make small commitments. For example, if someone asks you, "Do you care about the environment?" you will say, "Yes." Then, when the same person asks you for a donation for the environment, you feel obligated to behave consistently with your previous commitment. This technique is called foot in the door, where a small demand is agreed to first, and then a larger demand is made. The most dangerous aspect of the power of consistency is that it puts us in autopilot mode. Once we have made a decision, we begin to ignore new information that challenges our decision. We make excuses to justify our choice, even if it is clear that we made a mistake. This is an important feature of human nature because consistency makes us socially reliable. People who constantly change their opinions are considered unstable and unreliable. But this tendency makes us vulnerable to manipulation. Salespeople know that if they get a small agreement from you, you are more likely to agree to larger demands. For example, toy companies show advertisements before Christmas so that children ask for specific toys. Parents promise their children that they will buy those toys. Then companies deliberately create a shortage of those toys, so parents have to buy something else. After Christmas, they bring those toys back into stock, and parents buy them to fulfill their commitment. This clever strategy is a direct exploitation of the principle of consistency. Written commitments are especially powerful because they leave a deep impression on our minds. When we write something, it becomes part of our identity. The Chinese communists used this technique during the Korean War to get American prisoners of war to cooperate. They made prisoners write small pro-communist statements. Once a prisoner had written this, he gradually began to cooperate more because he wanted to behave consistently with his written commitment. In modern marketing, companies ask you to participate in contests where you have to write in your own words why you like their product. This is not just a contest, but a psychological strategy that makes you more committed to that brand. Public commitments are even more effective. When you take a stand in front of other people, you hesitate more to back down from it. This is why weight loss groups and smoking cessation programs are so successful. They use the power of public commitment. Cialdini suggests that to avoid this trap, we should listen to our inner signals and ask whether we want to do what we said before, or if circumstances have changed. The third important principle is social proof, which helps us determine what is right. We believe that if many people are doing something, it must be right. This is a shortcut in our brain that often works, but can sometimes mislead us. When we are uncertain, we look at what other people are doing and follow them. Advertisers use this principle tremendously when they say best-selling or more than 1 million satisfied customers. Artificial laughter is added to television shows because it tells the audience when to laugh. Bartenders put some money in their tip jars beforehand so that other people feel that tipping is normal. In charity appeals, it is mentioned that your neighbors have already donated so that you are also inspired to donate. Seeing long lines at restaurants, people think the food must be good, so they also join the line. This principle is especially powerful when we are uncertain and when we observe people who are like us. There is also a dark side to social proof, which sometimes leads to tragedy. The case of Kitty Genovese, where 38 people witnessed a woman's murder but no one called the police, is a horrific example of this. Each person looked at others and thought that if something serious was happening, someone else would take action. This is called the bystander effect, where the more people there are, the less likely it is that someone will help. People assume that if others are not concerned, the situation is probably not that serious. Cults and mass suicides can also be a result of social proof, where people follow others even if it is destructive. The epidemic of suicide among youth can be a result of this effect, where one suicide influences others. When the media covers suicides extensively, it often leads to more suicides because vulnerable people begin to see it as a solution. Cialdini explains that social proof is especially effective when we observe people who are like us, similar age, similar background, similar circumstances. This is why advertisers always show people who are similar to their target audience. The modern digital age has multiplied the power of social proof many times over. Online reviews, ratings, and social media likes are all forms of social proof that influence our decisions. When we think about buying a product, the first thing we do is read reviews. A product with a 5-star rating seems better than a 3-star product, even if the quality of both is the same. This is why companies buy fake reviews or pay people to write reviews. Social media influencers work on this principle. When millions of people follow someone, we think that person must be important or reliable. View count is prominently displayed in YouTube videos for this reason. A high view count means many people have watched it, so it must be worth watching. Messages like 20 people are looking at this restaurant right now on restaurant booking apps create pressure for you to book quickly. E-commerce sites show that 50 people bought this item in the last hour, which creates both urgency and social proof. To avoid these techniques, we must understand that just because many people are doing something, it does not mean it is right for us. The fourth principle is liking, which is very simple yet extremely powerful. We are more likely to say yes to people we like. This seems so obvious that it is easy to overlook its depth. Tupperware parties run on this principle. You go to your friend's party and feel the pressure to buy items there. You are not buying those items because you need them, but because your friend is selling them. Successful salesmen know that if the customer likes them, the probability of a sale increases manifold. They try to find similarities, give compliments, and make themselves pleasant. Car salesmen ask about your interests while sitting in your car and look for similarities. When you find that the salesman also plays golf or also has 2 children, you begin to like him more. Physical attractiveness is also an important part of this principle. Attractive people are considered more trustworthy, intelligent, and capable. This is called the halo effect, where one positive trait influences our entire perspective. Similarity also increases liking. We like people who dress like us, speak like us, and share our opinions. The power of a compliment cannot be underestimated, even if we know it is false or exaggerated. Cialdini cites studies showing that people like those who compliment them, even if the compliment is clearly flattery. When someone compliments us, our brain releases pleasure chemicals, and we develop positive feelings toward that person. Cooperation and teamwork also increase liking, which explains the success of the jigsaw classroom technique in schools. When children from different backgrounds work together toward a shared goal, they begin to like each other more. Conflict and competition have the opposite effect. This is why sports rivalries can be so intense. Conditioning and association also play an important role. We dislike people who bring bad news, even if they are not responsible for it. This is why companies use celebrity endorsements. They want us to associate our positive feelings toward the celebrity with their product. Weather reporters often find blame for bad weather, even if they are only reporting it. Politicians associate themselves with winners and successful people, so that the glow of that success falls on them too. The fifth principle is authority, which motivates us to obey people who are in positions of power. From childhood, we are taught that respecting authority is a positive quality. Parents, teachers, police, doctors, these are all symbols of authority whom we obey. Stanley Milgram's famous experiments showed that 65% of people would follow an official's orders, even if it meant giving a lethal electric shock to another person. These people were not bad. They were just following their deep, conditional obedience toward authority. The use of doctors, scientists, and experts in advertisements exploits this very principle. When a person wearing a white coat says a product is good, we are more likely to believe it. Even mere symbols of authority, such as uniforms, titles, or expensive clothes, can influence us. One study found that when a person wearing a suit crosses the road illegally, 3 times as many people follow him. Symbols of authority are so powerful that even people wearing fake uniforms can have an unbelievable influence. The danger of authority is that it shuts down our critical thinking. When an authority figure says something, we automatically assume it is correct. Serious medical errors occur in hospitals because nurses and junior doctors do not question the decisions of senior doctors. In one case, a doctor told a nurse over the phone to put a medicine in the patient's right ear, but it was written as our ear. The nurse obeyed and put the medicine in the patient's right ear rectum because she thought the doctor meant rear. This scary but true example shows how dangerous our automatic obedience to authority can be. Analysis of aircraft accidents has shown that many accidents occurred because the co-pilot did not question the captain's mistakes. Cialdini suggests that we ask 2 questions to protect ourselves from authority. Is this authority truly an expert? And can we expect the expert to tell us the truth? Many times, experts are not actually experts in that specific field, or they have their own agenda. Doctors on television may recommend toothpastes, but they may not be dentists. Titles and uniforms can be influential, but they are not a guarantee of actual expertise. The sixth and final principle is scarcity, which is perhaps the fastest acting influence tool. When we feel that something is scarce or limited, we want it more. Messages like limited time offer and stock is about to run out force us to take immediate action. Psychologically, we hate to lose. In fact, the fear of losing something is twice as strong as the joy of gaining it. This is why the message "only 2 left" is so effective. It creates a sense of emergency in our minds and disrupts our rational thinking. The principle of scarcity works on several levels: limited number, limited time, or competition. When we know that other people are also competing for the same thing, our desire increases even more. Auctions work on this psychology. When you see other people bidding for something, you want it even more. The Romeo and Juliet effect shows that when parents oppose a relationship, lovers begin to want each other even more. Censorship makes something more desirable. When a book is banned, people want to read it even more. The most powerful form of scarcity is when something was previously available in abundance and then becomes scarce. People who have experienced freedom and then lost it fight more aggressively to get it back. This is called reactance theory. When our freedom is taken away, we become restless to get it back. Children understand this instinctively. When you forbid them from doing something, they want to do it even more. At the age of the terrible twos, children constantly say no because they are establishing their freedom. This tendency becomes even stronger in adolescence. Marketers take advantage of this psychology by creating exclusive and limited edition products. When Nike releases a limited edition sneaker, people stand in line for hours. Collector items are valuable because of their scarcity, not because of their actual utility. Cialdini explains that in one experiment, people rated cookies as more delicious when there were only 2 cookies in the jar instead of 10. Even though they were exactly the same cookies. When a jar with 10 cookies was replaced with a jar of 2 cookies, people considered them even more delicious. Modern e-commerce has developed scarcity techniques into an art form. Websites show timers that count down until the offer ends, which creates urgency. The message, "Only 3 rooms left," pushes you to book immediately. The alert, "10 people are looking at this right now," creates a sense of competition. Flash sales, which last only for a few hours, force people to shop without thinking. Limited edition collections make customers feel they are getting something special and unique. The pre-order now option creates excitement even before a product is launched. Streaming platforms apply labels like "available only this month" so that people watch quickly. The objective of all these techniques is to create FOMO, fear of missing out, in our minds. To protect against scarcity, Cialdini suggests that we ask ourselves, do I want this thing for its utility or just because it is rare? If we want it only for keeping or for competing with others, we should stop. If we are actually going to use it, its rarity should not matter. Understanding these 6 principles is one thing, but recognizing and protecting against them in real life is a completely different challenge. Cialdini explains that these principles are so deeply embedded in our psychology that it can be difficult even to recognize them. When we are under some pressure, when we have less time, when we are tired, when we are uncertain, then we rely more on these automatic influence weapons. The complexity of modern life has made these shortcuts even more essential. We make thousands of decisions every day, and we do not have the time or energy to fully analyze every decision. Therefore, our brain depends on these simple rules. If an expert says so, it must be right. If everyone is doing it, it must be right. If it is rare, it must be valuable. Most of the time, these rules serve us well. Doctors are usually right. Social norms are usually useful, and rare things are often valuable. The problem arises when someone deliberately exploits these tendencies. Cialdini says that the solution is not to abandon these rules. They are very useful, but rather to learn when someone is using them incorrectly. The most important lesson in the book is that we should learn to recognize the feelings and reactions inside us. When we suddenly feel an intense desire to buy something or to say yes to a request, we should stop and think. This intense feeling can be a warning sign that an influence technique is at work. Cialdini suggests that we ask ourselves, Am I making this decision of my own will or due to some external pressure? Do I really need this thing, or do I just feel like I need it? If I take this decision tomorrow, will I make the same choice? These simple questions give us an opportunity to stop and think, which is often enough to protect against manipulation. We should also remember that people using these techniques are not necessarily bad. Many times they are just running their business, and they also do not know that they are using these psychological principles. But some people use these techniques deliberately and dishonestly. Cialdini says that when we feel that someone has used these techniques with us dishonestly, we should stand up aggressively against them. An interesting thing that Cialdini mentions is that these principles can also be used positively. If you are collecting donations for a good cause, it can be ethical to use these techniques. If you are a doctor and want your patients to take medicine, it is appropriate to use the principle of authority. If you are a teacher and want children to become more cooperative, using liking and social proof can be helpful. The key is to use these techniques honestly and for the good of others, not to deceive them. Cialdini himself is an ethical person, and he does not want his book to be used to dupe people. Rather, his objective is to educate people so that they can protect themselves from manipulation. He also found that when people learn to recognize these techniques, they not only protect themselves, but also educate others. This knowledge becomes a type of vaccine that protects us from future influence attempts. Every time we recognize a technique and resist it, we become better at recognizing it the next time. Another important aspect of this book is that it gives us a deep understanding of human nature. Why do we do what we do? How rational are our decisions? Cialdini shows that we are much less rational than we think. Many of our decisions are emotional, automatic, and unconscious. This can be scary, but it is part of being human. Our ancestors who made quick decisions, even if they were not always perfect, survived and passed on their genes. Those who spent hours thinking over every decision became prey to predators or died of hunger. Therefore, these fast, automatic decision systems developed in our brains. In today's world, where we have to escape not from lions but from salesmen, these old systems are not always useful. But they are still there, deeply embedded in our brains. Cialdini says that understanding these systems is a form of self-awareness. When we know how our brain works, we can make better decisions. This knowledge gives us power, the power of self-control. We can stop ourselves from reacting mechanically and make conscious choices. It is not easy because these tendencies are very strong, but awareness is the first step. Cialdini's book provides us with this awareness, and that is its biggest contribution. It is not just a sales manual or a dry textbook of psychology. It is a fascinating exploration of human behavior that helps us understand ourselves better. To write his book, Cialdini worked undercover in various organizations for 3 years. He became a salesman in car dealerships, worked in telemarketing companies, joined fundraising organizations, and spent time in advertising agencies. He observed how successful influencers work, studied their techniques, and found patterns. He found that whether someone was selling a car, asking for a donation, or collecting votes, they were all using these same 6 basic principles. This was no coincidence. These principles are universal because they are based on fundamental aspects of human psychology. No matter what culture you are from, or what age you are, these principles work. Of course, their strength may vary in different cultures. In some societies, respect for authority is stronger. In others, social proof is more effective. But the core principles work everywhere. Cialdini included studies from various countries and cultures in his research and found that these principles are globally valid. This book was written in America, but it has been translated into more than 30 languages and has been found relevant everywhere. In India, too, when we look around us, we can see these principles working in the market, in the media, in politics, everywhere. Another important point of the book is that Cialdini does not only explain the principles, but provides stories full of real-life examples. He cites scientific experiments, recalls historical events, and shares his personal experiences. This makes the book interesting to read and easy to understand. In every chapter, he presents a principle, then gives several examples of how it works, and finally suggests strategies for defense. His writing style is accessible and engaging. He explains complex psychological concepts in simple language. This is why this book became so popular not only among students of psychology, but also among general readers. Cialdini also has a sense of humor. He sometimes laughs at himself when he explains how he himself became a victim of these techniques. This humanity makes the book more relatable. We all have felt these experiences, buying something that we did not need, saying yes to a request that we did not want to do. Cialdini shows us that we are not alone, and this did not happen to us because of being foolish, but because of being human. The influence of the book has been deep not only at a personal level, but also in the commercial and professional world. Marketing students read it as a mandatory text. Sales teams are trained on these principles. Leaders use these techniques to motivate their teams. Politicians apply them in campaigns. Nonprofit organizations use them to collect more donations. Cialdini has created a new language in the business world. Now people talk about reciprocity strategy or scarcity marketing. His book also showed that marketing is not just a matter of creativity or intuition, but it can be based on science. In the last 40 years, this book has sold millions of copies and is considered a classic of business and psychology. It is one of the few books that has not only stood the test of time, but has become even more relevant over time. In the digital age, where thousands of advertisements and influence attempts bombarding us every day, this knowledge is more important than ever. Cialdini later updated his book and published a new edition in which a seventh principle was added: unity. This principle states that we are more likely to say yes to people whom we consider part of our group. This is different from liking. It is deeper. It is about shared identity. When we feel that someone is part of our family, our tribe, our community, we show extraordinary loyalty toward them. Local businesses use this principle when they say, support local. Colleges use it while asking for donations from alumni. Political parties use it when they use the language of one of us. Brands try to create a community where customers feel themselves to be part of that group. This principle shows that Cialdini's work is not static. He continuously conducts research and keeps adding new insights. But the original 6 principles remain the heart of the book, and they are as powerful today as they were when they were first published. In the end, this book teaches us an important lesson. Power is in knowledge. When we understand how influence works, we can protect ourselves and make conscious decisions. We do not need to be paranoid or to doubt everyone, but we should remain alert and aware. When someone asks something of us, we should stop and think, are they using an influence technique? Is this truly in my interest? Am I making a decision under pressure? These simple questions can help us make better choices. Cialdini also reminds us that these principles are ethically neutral. They are neither good nor bad. They are merely tools. They can be used for good purposes, helping people adopt healthier behaviors, mobilizing support for important causes, bringing positive social change, or they can be used for exploitation and manipulation. The choice is ours. Influence. The Psychology of Persuasion is not just a book. It is a life skill, a lens through which we can see the world and understand ourselves and others better. So this was the journey of Robert Cialdini's important book. 6 powerful principles: reciprocity, commitment and consistency, social proof, liking, authority, and scarcity, which are working in our lives every day. Every time you see an advertisement, every time someone asks you for something, every time you make a decision, these principles are working in the background. Now that you know them, you can recognize them. You can make conscious choices. You are in control. This awareness itself is the real power. I hope that this summary has provided you with the main insights of this important book. Remember, knowledge is valuable only when we use it. So next time you find yourself doing something that you had not planned, stop and ask, which principle was working? Once you recognize it, you can control it. This is Cialdini's gift, the gift of self-awareness and personal power. Take care of yourself and make decisions wisely. Thank you.